In 1827, a traveler described Gadsden County, Florida as an oasis, nature in a playful, almost festive mood. Fertile land, gentle hills, a river that promised prosperity. But beneath this beauty lay the machinery of a brutal economy. While history often turns its gaze to the plantations of Virginia or the Carolinas, Gadsden County quietly rose into one of the most powerful plantation regions of the Deep South, a frontier shaped not by chance, but by design. Established in 1823, Gadsden County became the only county in Florida to maintain a majority African American population from the territorial era to the present day. By 1830, more than half of its residents were enslaved. On the eve of the Civil War, that number had climbed to nearly 60%. This was not a society that merely allowed slavery. It was a society built upon it. Who built this empire of cotton and tobacco? Many were elite planters from Virginia and the Carolinas, men who arrived with capital, ambition, and enslaved labor. Prominent figures included Colonel Henry Young, Major Jonathan Robinson, and Dr. Malcolm Nicholson. Abraham K. Allison, a rising planter who later served as Florida's acting governor during the Civil War, expanded his holdings from none in 1845 to 38 enslaved people by 1853. But true power in Gadsden County was measured in scale. By 1860, William Kilcrease was the county's largest slaveholder, controlling the lives of 160 enslaved men, women, and children. Charles H. DuPont, a Florida Supreme Court justice, enslaved 108 people across 5,800 acres. William Monroe and John H. Smith each commanded plantations of more than 100 enslaved laborers. Even the county's oldest surviving home, the Joshua Davis House, stood at the center of a 1,440-acre tobacco plantation where at least 33 enslaved people were forced to labor. Life for the enslaved in Gadsden County followed the rhythm of the crops. Cotton remained essential, but the introduction of tobacco cultivation in 1828 transformed the region. Gadsden County would become internationally known for its shade-grown wrapper leaf tobacco. That global reputation, however, was built on the labor of more than 5,000 enslaved people. On large plantations, work was organized through the gang system. Enslaved laborers were grouped by age and strength, performing repetitive tasks, hoeing, planting, harvesting, from sunrise to sunset. The severity of daily life depended almost entirely on the master or overseer. For those under cruel supervision, the fields became places of relentless punishment. Not all labor took place in the fields. Enslaved artisans worked as blacksmiths, carpenters, and mill operators. On estates like Kilcrease and Robinson, enslaved men built chimneys, repaired wagons, and maintained grist and sawmills. Enslaved women were often forced into domestic labor, cooking, laundering, sewing, and caring for the planters' children, work that blurred the boundary between labor and constant surveillance. At day's end, the enslaved returned to small cabins, often one-room structures near the main house. Life there offered little rest and no security. Families lived under the constant threat of separation. Husbands, wives, and children could be sold away at any moment. Yet against these odds, enslaved people forged kinship, community, and culture. They worshipped in secret, shared stories, and gathered on Saturday nights for music and dance, often led by an enslaved fiddler whose role was both cultural and communal. Resistance was woven into daily life. While no large-scale rebellions are recorded in Gadsden County, enslaved people resisted through escape. Runaway notices flooded local newspapers, offering rewards for the return of human property. Some fugitives vanished into Florida's vast wilderness. Others sought refuge among Seminole communities, where life, though still dangerous, could offer greater autonomy than the plantation system. Another form of exploitation was known as hiring out. Enslaved people were leased to railroads, canals, or local businesses, including the store of merchant Cyrus Dearborn. Though this sometimes allowed limited mobility, it often meant harsher conditions and separation from family. The Civil War brought an end to Gadsden County's plantation dominance. Though the Emancipation Proclamation was issued in 1863, freedom did not arrive in Confederate Florida until May 20th, 1865. On that day in Tallahassee, Union General Edward M. McCook formally announced the end of slavery. For Gadsden County, emancipation marked both liberation and loss. The plantation economy collapsed, but the formerly enslaved, families like Oliver and Sally Green, whose son George would become a respected pioneer, remained, rebuilding their lives on the same land they had once worked in chains. Today, Gadsden County carries this legacy forward. Its fields still remember tobacco and cotton, but more importantly, they remember the people whose labor shaped Florida's past and whose descendants continue to shape its future. To understand Gadsden County is to understand that its history was written not only in mansions and courtrooms, but in the shadows of the shade, by the hands that tilled the earth.